This video is filled with copies of expensive home decor for way less money, so let's get going on the first high-end dupe. I loved the look of this hanging basket, so we're going to make something really similar for way less than $67. Now, I had made this basket for another DIY, and we're going to upcycle it. Let me show you real quick how I put this together with Dollar Tree supplies. I love finding creative ways to use that Dollar Tree foam core, so we will be cutting out a few pieces here of this foam core, and we're going to use it as the base for our basket. I hot glued these pieces together, and don't worry about the sides because we will be wrapping this all with a Dollar Tree hula skirt. I just wrapped in sections and hot glued the hula skirt in place, not worrying too much about what the back looks like since it will be totally hidden once we hang it on the door. Next, I mixed up some paint and I painted right onto that raffia. It's looking soggy right now, but when it dries, it will actually stiffen up and the raffia will be a bit more sturdy. Now for the leather straps. My husband recently recovered the piano bench. It was originally a really weird orange color, kind of like the orangey look of his guitar over here. So we had some left over of this dark brown faux leather, and I will be trimming that into strips for our basket. I have seen other YouTubers using leather looking ribbon from Dollar Tree, but I haven't picked up any of that yet. I think that faux leather ribbon would be perfect for this project too. Getting artsy and creating things to make your home beautiful is relaxing and fun. That's why I love sharing crafts and home DIYs with you guys, so that you can get lots of ideas to find your inner artist. If you enjoy home decor videos, please consider subscribing. It really helps my channel out, and I appreciate your support so much here on Artsy Cupcake. You can find these rounded stickers at Dollar Tree. They were originally blue, but I painted them white with some spray paint. I'm trying to decide between the white ones painted gold or the larger ones I had painted silver. I ended up going with the larger ones because I think they stand out more since they're a little bit bigger, and I also like how they're a little flatter. They look more like the ones on the Ballard version. I attached everything together, hiding the edges between the other strips of fabric or on the back. All that's left to do is fill our basket with some flowers. Here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree. And here is the comparison of my version to the Ballard's one. I love the hand-painted look of this vase, so guess what we're going to do? Hand paint a vase. I love painting simple patterns like this one. It's just a peaceful and relaxing activity, and you can see even this example has a few little imperfections. And that's what makes it feel homemade and special. Now I do have a few tricks to make painting a little easier, so let's get started. I had this vase and I thought the indentations on it would add to the dimension. I gave it a coat of white spray paint and then grabbed my Sharpie oil-based paint pen. I like to create my outlines with a nice sturdy tool like a marker or pencil or pen before going over it with paint. It's kind of like creating coloring book lines for yourself. This really takes the pressure off of getting it right the first time with your paintbrush, especially if you don't use a paintbrush every day and you're not as agile with them. I went over with the first coat of paint, then I deepened the shade up and went over everything again. By the way, if you want to reference any of these videos later, I have all the details in the description box below. There are bookmarks to each of the tutorials and links and printables that I may mention. I added some florals and this one was done. Here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree. And here is the comparison of mine to the Ballard's one. I loved the color of this and the look of this mirror, so we're going to make a smaller version. This one is 34 inches and ours will be around 8 inches, so that's approximately 1/4 of the size. So 1/4 of $459 is about $115. Sorry, that was a lot of math. Let's just try to dupe this one for under $115. I found this cute package of home decor pieces in the Target dollar spot for $5. It came with a small mirror and a welcome sign, and I love this home sign. You will see these being made over in future DIYs. I grabbed my grayish chalk paint and started painting everything, making sure to get the sides of the mirror too. Then I painted these wooden balls that I got on Amazon. I think they were around $10. For quite a few of these, they've lasted me a while, and they did come in a variety of sizes. I did need 2 coats of paint for those. I used a combo of Starbond glue and hot glue. The Starbond will help it have a long-term bond, and the hot glue will give it the quick hold as I'm working. This one was so cheap to make, plus I have materials left over like extra wooden balls and those other signs that came in the Target package, which I can't wait to do mini makeovers on. And we got way under our goal of $115. We only spent $15. I was at Pottery Barn this weekend and saw some really gorgeous home decor items. But Pottery Barn is expensive and I knew I could make some of these for way less. So let's see how I did with these Pottery Barn dupes. I had a fun little trip to my local Dollar Tree and saw this new section with $3 and $5 items. They had a wooden tray that I thought would work for this Pottery Barn dupe. I'm going to make mine rectangular instead of round, but it will have the same look and feel as the Pottery Barn one. This tray is really well made and sturdy, definitely a good deal for $5. Let's take this black paint, and you can get paints like these at Dollar Tree, and we're going to paint the sides and make sure to get all the edges really well. Go back with a smaller brush to get those corners. It's okay that we're getting a little paint on the open area in the middle because we'll be covering that up with the design, and just in case the paper doesn't fit perfectly, having that little edge of paint will help finish off the edges nicely. So I hopped onto my computer to turn this circular pattern into a rectangular one. Then I printed this out in 2 pieces since my printer only prints up to letter size pieces of paper. We'll trim the paper so that the center of the design butts up next to each other seamlessly. You can find Mod Podge at Dollar Tree, but I have this waterproof one, and since I will be using this in the kitchen, I thought it would be perfect for this project in case a drink spills on the tray. I brushed a bit of the Mod Podge and then smoothed out the paper. Do this for both sides and then wait 30 minutes until it's dry before painting more Mod Podge on top. I also painted the inside sides of the tray so it would have a seamless look. Sometimes the Mod Podge leaves a little bit of a sheen, even the matte versions, and I didn't want any spots showing on that black paint, so finishing off the entire inside with Mod Podge ended up giving this a really nice finished look. So here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree, and here's the comparison of mine to the Pottery Barn one. What do you guys think? I loved the look of these vases. They had a lot of these kind of aged looking vases at the store. I wanted to recreate that look of just the right amount of distressing, so I used an old vase I already had. Now they do sell glass vases at Dollar Tree, so you could pick one up for $1 over there if you don't have one sitting around. Start by giving the vase a flat white coat of spray paint. This will help our acrylic paint stick better to the glass. I'm starting by brushing some off-white paint in a circular motion around the vase to give it a little bit of a streak type texture. I ended up adding a few little specks of brown and black and blended them in just to give this that antique look. You can find leather looking ribbon at Dollar Tree, but I didn't have any luck finding it at mine this time, so I'm just going to use this leftover faux leather that we used to recover our piano bench. I'm adding a little black paint to distress it a bit because that's the way the Pottery Barn version looked. I'm just using a paper towel and dabbing the black paint around to make it look a little worn and not so brand new. You can find these little rounded stickers at Dollar Tree. They were originally blue, but I had spray painted them flat white, and now I'm just painting a few black. The flat white spray paint just gives it a surface for your acrylic paint to stick to. This really helps when you're working with slippery surfaces like glass or plastic. I trimmed up that faux leather into strips and then glued it together. You have to work in small sections with the hot glue on this because it does dry quickly on the fabric. I used a Sharpie to color the edges of the fabric so it would look consistent around all sides and you wouldn't see any of those rough edges. Use some hot glue to secure the straps to the sides of the vase. I thought these might come off easily and I may have to use a stronger glue like E6000, but they stuck on there really well and I could even lift the vase up with just the handles. Here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree. And here's a comparison of mine to the Pottery Barn one. This was such a low-cost project for that high-end look. I thought this was such a pretty way to display a candle, so let's make our own version for way less than $80. So I'm trying something new here today. We'll see how this works out. It seems kind of weird and like something you would do in kindergarten, but we're going to create DIY plaster of Paris out of flour and water. I've read Elmer's glue and water is another way to make plaster of Paris. But I want to get a nice thick coating and a textured look like the Pottery Barn one, so we'll be trying out the flour and water version. I mixed flour and warm water until I got a thick consistency, then just smeared this onto the Dollar Tree charger, and I had already painted that for another project, but I think it was originally silver. This texture already reminds me of some of those vases I saw at Pottery Barn. This is how it looks after a couple hours, and it's starting to dry in a few places. You can see it looks a little bit lighter in those sections. Around 24 hours later, it's really hard in most areas. It did crack a little in some areas, but this really gives it a natural handmade vase look, which I think will look great after some paint. I'll let the rest finish drying for 24 to 48 hours. I saw this porcelain dish at Dollar Tree and thought the lid might work nicely for the round stand that the candle will sit on. Then I remembered I had found this porcelain dish in the Target dollar spot and think it will work even better. I will spray paint both of these gold and then attach them with E6000 and let them dry overnight. I have this candle that is white and will look similar to the one in the Pottery Barn inspiration photo. I want to make a napkin holder, so I looked around for items that would be a good starting point. This tray was a good size, and if you're wondering, they do come apart with a little aggression. I want the bottom piece to act as a nice sturdy base, plus it's already the right color and size. I measured how big I want this to be and then created an outline of the barn on my computer. I'm using a nail tool to create the creases in this piece of Dollar Tree foam core. Then I I used my X-Acto knife to cut out the shapes. Make sure you have a fresh blade when you're working with foam core. I did 2 sides with this barn shape. For the open areas of the barn, I want to have a gray backing. I found these chopping mats at Dollar Tree and I think they might work. They are supposed to be for cutting, so it may not be easy to cut through them. We'll have to see. Okay, these cutting mats took a couple slices to get through, so good for our project, but maybe not so good for in the kitchen. I mixed up a grayish shade and gave the matte side of the chopping mats a little texture. If you're familiar with my style, you may have noticed I always go for a simple, elegant look, so my farmhouse is more on the modern farmhouse end. I like a nice clean look, so the texture here is subtle, but does add just a bit of dimension to this piece. I also painted the sides of the roof of the barn. For the design at the top of the barn, I tried a couple different ways. When you're freehanding with paint, it is helpful to test your design on a separate piece of paper just to make sure that everything is how you like it. But I found the easiest way to do this shape is to draw with a marker. This marker happens to be erasable, so if you mess up, no worries. Then I took the paint and I traced over the marker. Doing it this way gives you that hand-painted look without all the pressure to get it right the first time with the paintbrush. Next, I attached the cutting mats to the inside of the barn shapes and then glued these to each side of the wooden base. I measured how big the sides needed to be, and then I repeated those same steps that we did for the other 2 sides. Here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree. And here is the comparison of mine to the Kirkland's one. Pretty good savings. This monogram sign was so cute, but I think we can make it for way cheaper than $25. I had this floral hoop, but you could use a hula hoop or an embroidery hoop. I already painted it white and I'm just measuring it to see how big the letter M needs to be. I created this M on my computer and manipulated it to be as close as possible to the Kirkland's one, but since my printer only does letter-sized paper, I have to piece it together. We're doing things old school today, and if you don't have a Cricut or another cutting machine, then you'll get a few tips on how to do some lettering by hand. So I trimmed the edges up and taped the shape together. Then I indented the paper with a dull object. You don't want to cut through until you've traced the whole thing. Getting artsy and creating things to make your home beautiful is relaxing and fun, and that's why I share crafts and home DIYs, so you can get lots of ideas to find your inner artist. If you're liking this video, please consider subscribing to my channel. It really helps me grow, and I appreciate each and every one of you so much. I post every Friday, but sometimes I do a bonus video during the week, so if you also click that notification bell, then you won't miss any new budget-friendly home decor and crafting videos. Then I go in with my X-Acto knife and try to make as smooth of cuts as possible. I'm using long, slow cuts, trying to pick up the knife as few times as possible. And this is the best way to do it. I've been using X-Acto knives since probably design school, and that was a long time ago. So I've even got a few mess ups even with all those years of experience. So don't worry if yours doesn't come out perfect, because you can go in and do detail work after the initial cuts. I cleaned up the edges, and even a little sandpaper can really smooth things out. Dollar Tree has buffalo check ribbon, but I am all out of that, so I had to cut this really big one to size. Not the ideal situation, but I'm sure I'll pick up more of that ribbon from my Dollar Tree on my next visit. I wrapped this around the hoop and added a bow to try to match the Kirkland's version. And then I attached the letter to the back of the hoop. That way you won't see where the glue is. Here were the supplies we had to pick up at Dollar Tree. And here is the comparison of my version to the Kirkland's one. I thought this eat sign would look really cute with the barn napkin holder that we made. I started by cutting the foam core to the right size. This will be a nice thick backing for our sign. I got these peel and stick vinyls in the Target dollar spot. I saw the eat sign on the packaging and I thought those letters would be perfect for this sign, but I opened this up and there was no eat sign. It was just the backgrounds, the vinyl, but that's okay. We can manage. We have other ways to do these letters. So I made these letters match the Kirkland's ones as closely as possible on my computer, and then to add a tiny bit of texture, we are going to dry brush these with some of that grayish paint I had mixed up. I got as much of the paint off the brush as possible and then very lightly brushed in several different directions to give a bit of distressing. Then I finished cutting those letters out with the X-Acto knife. I'm using the wooden blocks, which are like a tiny Jenga game, and you can find those in the kids section at Dollar Tree. And I'm just gluing those right onto the sign. Hot glue sticks wood to foam core really well, so these are on there good. I like the natural look of this wood, so I am trying to find blocks that have a similar pattern. There are some blocks in there that have no grain on there. They're just really flat looking, so I am avoiding those. Oops, there was one block with writing on it. I will leave that one off of here. Then I used a very thin coat of Mod Podge on the back of each letter and stuck it to the foam core. The last step is to finish off the edges. I'm mixing up some paint to closely match the color of those wooden blocks. It's just mostly white with a little brown and a little yellow. Then I painted that on the sides where the foam core was exposed. This one was so cheap to make, only $2, and it looks so close to the original. $20, we are going to make one for only $3. I had ordered some washable makeup remover pads from Amazon, and this box was so sturdy that I decided to save it for a DIY. I've had these miter shears for a while, and I love how they make cutting angles so easy. We'll be using these to cut some wide craft sticks, but they are so thin that you could probably get away with using just scissors. So I measured, trimmed, and sanded any rough edges as I went along, and then attached these craft sticks to the box with a bit of hot glue. The top of that box had the indentation, so I had to double, or maybe I ended up tripling the amount of craft sticks needed to make it the same depth as the rest of the box. Then I added the 2 sticks onto the sides. I did this on the rest of the sides of the box. And then I gave this a coat of white paint. I only did 1 light coat because I wanted the wood grain to show through. Next, I mixed up some brown, gold, and a touch of black paint. I found these little dome-like stickers at Dollar Tree, and we're going to paint them to look like nails. I let these dry overnight. They do have a sticker on the back, but sometimes when you pull them off the sheet, the sticker doesn't come with it. So for those instances, I just used a tiny dab of hot glue to secure it down. A bit of greenery and this dupe is complete. Here are the prices for the items we used. And here is the comparison. What a savings, and it looks pretty close to the Kirkland's version. I love the pink and white flowers, but I don't love that price. Let's see how we can make this for only $10. I recently organized my craft storage, and I did a video on that if you're interested. So I had this container I wasn't using for anything, but it ended up being perfect for my Dollar Tree hula skirt. I've been harvesting the raffia off of this hula skirt for a few projects now. The strings are just looped around some rope, so I unlooped them until I had enough for this project. I taped down 4 strings of that raffia, and we are going to do a 4-strand braid. Now, if you wanted to do just a regular 3-strand braid, I think that would work well too. But I wanted to do 4 because I thought it would really bulk up the strands, and the 4-strand braid would give it the same look as the Kirkland's version. We'll see how it works out. You basically take the 2 outer strings and cross them in the middle. Keep repeating that over and over again, taking the outer strings and crossing them over each other in the center. I squished down the braid and tried to flatten it a bit so it would be easier to wrap around our hoop and take up more surface area. I think I found that hoop at Michael's in the floral section. I am going to use a touch of hot glue to secure the beginning and the end of our strand. I wrapped this around and am really happy with how it looks. I'm going to go almost all the way around because we won't need to do the part that the florals are going to go over. Then I popped the rest of that hula skirt back into that jar. Keeps it nice and tidy. Okay, now for the fun part, which is arranging the flowers onto the hoop. I kept referencing the photo of the Kirkland's one as I went along because I was trying to copy it as closely as possible. I used some Dollar Tree floral wire to secure everything in place. For the flowers, I just wrapped their stems right around the hoop, and then I hid any wire or stems by pulling up the greenery over it. Here are the prices for everything we used to make the wreath. And here is the comparison. Looks pretty close to me. I love the minimalist look of this pebble wall art, but for $70, Well, I think we can do better than that. If you have pebbles around your house, this part will be free for you and way cheaper than how I made it. I had to go buy some pebbles on Amazon, I think for like $10 or $11 to get the right sizes. And I picked out the small flat stones and also looked for the most neutral colors since the Kirkland's one uses mostly white and beige pebbles. This shadow box frame came in a set of 3 and is already the right color for our project, so no painting needed. Now see those wood pieces along the edge of my frame? If you wanted to transform a deep regular frame into a shadow box, all you would need to do is cut some foam core to fill in the edges, and then your frame mat would sit behind that to create the illusion of a shadow box. I cut a branch off of one of my trees and glued it into place. It is tucked under one corner, so that made the other 3 corners not at the same height. I used those little domed stickers that I got from Dollar Tree to add height to the rest of the corners. Then I just attached the stones with some glue. My pebbles were really lightweight, so hot glue worked on them. But if you are using heavier stones or making this a bit bigger, then you may want to use something a little bit stronger like E6000. Here are the prices for the items we used on this pebble wall art. And here is my version next to the Kirkland's one. What do you guys think? I thought this sign was so cute and it would look great in the laundry room. This was $30 at Kirkland's and we will be making it for only $3. I started by printing out this sign that I made. I used some spray mount to put it on a piece of Dollar Tree foam core, and then I just trimmed it out. Next, I took this Play-Doh, which I found at Dollar Tree, and made little spheres and let these dry, and then I painted them black. I used some floral wire and pliers to make those links, which I attached to the laundry sign. Now for some black paint to make this sign look like our inspiration. I used a chalk pen to make the letters look more aged. That aged look is part of what gives this sign that farmhouse look. I glued everything together and added an extra piece of wood to support the 2 dowels. Let's take a look at the comparison and how much we saved. I loved these signs and thought they would dress up the bare walls in my laundry room. We will be spending a lot less than $50 for them though. I had these nice wood frames from Dollar Tree. They're actually made of plastic, but they look like wood. And I had even used them for another fall craft, but I wanted to give them a fresh look and have a gray and black and white theme for my laundry room. So I got some white paint, and with the wood texture on these frames, it came out looking really rustic. The edges do not have that same wooden texture, but if you keep the sponge brush going in the same direction, you will get the effect of wood. I hopped onto Adobe Illustrator and put together these signs. I will put these on my blog so you can download them if you decide to make these for yourself. I used a paintbrush slightly dampened with some black paint, and I added a little bit of texture and age to these paper signs. They looked too crisp for that modern farmhouse look we're going for. I love hearing from you guys, so please leave me a comment letting me know what you think of these copycats of expensive home decor. Let's see what the savings was on this dupe. Yep, I think we did pretty good on this one too. I thought some baskets in my laundry room would come in handy for things like dryer sheets and little packets of laundry detergent. These were $55 from Kirkland's, but we will be saving a lot by making our own with these Dollar Tree baskets. I started by using a touch of white paint to give the outside of the baskets a little bit of an aged look. The inside we'll be covering with a liner, so don't worry about painting the inside. I had some Waverly fabric that I found at Walmart a while back. Plus it's gray, which will match our theme. But Dollar Tree does sell fabric like this, but I only had these seasonal patterns. You can use either fabric fuse tape or some fabric glue. I ended up using the glue for this project. I do not have a sewing machine, and I'm not trying to be fancy with these baskets, so we will be making these liners quick and dirty. I started by measuring the baskets, but that ended up being too complicated for baskets that are somewhat uneven to begin with. So I just kind of draped the fabric over the basket and outlined where the curves were. I cut these to size and then ironed each piece and ironed down the edge. I cut a piece of twine for each edge and then used some of the fabric glue to seal it down. Now for just a couple dollars, we have some functional and cute baskets, and these will help organize the laundry room. Let's look at the comparison to the original. Black and white home decor is so elegant and perfect for that modern farmhouse look. This monogram tray is regularly $27, but we are going to make it for only $4. And we're going to do that with some Dollar Tree finds. I started with this Dollar Tree canvas. My husband helped remove the staples so I could get to the part that I really wanted, that wooden frame. I flipped over that wooden frame and then I glued down the part where the holes were from the staples, and I put those on some foam core. The wood frame will prevent the foam core from bowing. After trimming, this was ready for a coat of white spray paint. cut 2 3-inch pieces and then 2 1/2-inch pieces to hold the handles in place. These dowels can be found at Dollar Tree. I had a nice base coat on the tray from the spray paint, but I wanted to touch up a few spots. Now for the fun part, adding the details to give this a rustic look. I added a tiny bit of black paint to a very thin brush, and then very lightly I brushed this onto the piece to create the illusion of wood. Next, I printed out the letter M and I trimmed it out with an X-Acto knife. I used a little Mod Podge, which you can find at Dollar Tree, and then I stuck that down and then I put a little bit on top to seal it. They have matte and gloss Mod Podge, so for this project you will want the matte version, and that'll just go along with the wood look that we're going for. Next, I glued the handles on. I think this tray would look so nice on a bathroom counter or to display your jewelry on a dresser. Let's take a look at the comparison. I love finding ways to make something that is much cheaper than the original. I think this one came out pretty good, so let's do another one. My favorite food of all time is cupcakes. Give me a like on this video if you love cupcakes too. I thought I could display a cupcake on this or maybe use it for styling other home decor. So I'm going to use this $60 beaded cake stand from Kirkland's as inspiration, but I'm going to do a black and white version. Dollar Tree has really nice glass dishware, and I picked up a small clear plate and a margarita glass. These are really solid pieces of glass, so this will be a very sturdy piece when we're all done with it. I used some E6000 to glue these two items together. And these little beaded stickers are the star of the show today. I found them at Dollar Tree and they come in strips on a sticky backing. I attached these to the edges, and once we put a coat of paint over the top, they will be sealed in place. I loved how this looked with a matte white finish, and I wanted to add some of the black paint to create a rustic look to match the tray that we made. Doesn't this look like a piece that Joanna Gaines would have? It's very Magnolia inspired too. I love how this is multi-purpose. Now, since I used paint, I would not put food directly on this, but if you wanted a workaround, you could put the paint only on the bottom of the plate, and then the top would remain free of paint, but since it's clear, you can still see the color through the top of the glass. I love hearing from you guys, so leave me a comment below letting me know what you think of these copycats of expensive home decor. Let's see what the savings was on this dupe. $60 versus $2. Yeah, I think we did pretty good on this one. Instead of $30, we will pay only $3. You'll need a mason jar. The ones from Dollar Tree do come with a metal lid, but we won't be needing that part for this little project. And then those beaded stickers that we saw, well, we're going to use those to block the paint and get those clear dots on the glass. I tried two methods for putting the stickers on the glass jar. I trimmed them and just stuck them right on there, but then I was worried that that might not be tight enough of a seal and that paint may get underneath that little sticky part. So I secured some of them with a tiny dot of hot glue. I did make sure to get all those little extra hot glue flyaways off before painting. Now, if you end up making this, I recommend the sticky backing option for securing those dots on there. The hot glue really stuck some of those on there a little bit too well, and they were hard to get off. The sticker ones came off really easily, and they did create that clean circle that I wanted when I removed them. I painted the top of the jar to match the Kirkland's inspiration, but then I later decided I wanted everything black and white, so I changed that beige to be a black edge. I painted some Dollar Tree floral wire, and I painted that black and then attached this to the top, and that's the little handle. I thought this would be great to store my cat treats. It's regularly priced at $45, but it was on sale here when I took this screenshot. But we're going to only spend $5 to make our version. You will need one of these baskets from Dollar Tree. They had them in different colors. Some foam core and these rounded stickers that we're going to use to make the nail heads. I cut the foam core and then I got to painting with a grayish color that I created with some black, white, and a little pink paint. If you're stopping by my channel for the first time, let me introduce myself. I'm Maria, and I love sharing ways to get creative in your home. If you like home DIYs, dupes, and decorating ideas, please hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell right now. After the basket and foam core were painted, I got my new saw out and cut this Dollar Tree dowel in half. I'm so happy to have a new saw. If you've been watching my videos, you guys know I was struggling with that old one that I had. So no sore arm this time. I painted those dowels to match the sign and the basket. I love this gray color. It kind of looks like metal. I used some E6000 to attach the sign because the painted piece of foam core was starting to bow a little bit. So I really wanted to make sure it was secure and flat on that other piece of white foam core. I laid a heavy book on top to let that dry, and while that dried, I printed out the Meow letters. If you had a Cricut machine, these letters would be much easier to make, but we're going old school and we're going to be hand trimming them with an X-Acto knife. I stuck those letters down with a little bit of tape so they wouldn't move around when I used the Mod Podge. Dollar Tree had gloss and matte Mod Podge, and we will be using the matte one to match our metal looking basket. I used this to stick down those paper letters. I used a couple coats of paint and then drew a black line on top to create those screw heads. I stuck these down with Mod Podge. And after attaching the sign, we now have a cute little Meow basket, perfect to hold my kitty cat's treats. Mine looks so close to the original, and here is the comparison. I'm really happy with how this one came out. Don't be intimidated because there is some painting involved. Everyone is an artist, and I will show you a little trick to get a cute original piece of art that looks really close to this one. Now, I love this cat canvas, but for $118, well, we can make it for way less. Like, how about $3? All you need is a Dollar Tree canvas and some black and white paint. I used this wax paper trick for my patio makeover video. You tape a piece of wax paper to a regular piece of paper, and then print your design right on there. Make sure that piece of wax paper is really secure before feeding it into your inkjet printer so that it won't get jammed. And make sure to have your canvas all ready to go because you want to do the transfer while the ink is still wet. I put a book under the canvas so it was more of a firm surface when I pressed the design onto it. It isn't a perfect transfer, but it is enough to use as a starting point for tracing out the image. It's way easier to have this little cheat instead of painting this from scratch, especially when it's something that's really realistic like this cat. I kept this photo nearby as I was painting so I could look at the shadows and the highlights and just copy the best I could with the paint. Even if yours comes out a little abstract, that's okay. It's really fun to paint and get creative and not worry about the outcome. Art comes in all kinds of styles, so embrace what you come up with. I love how simple and elegant this is for $3 versus $118. I think we did pretty good. Leave me a comment in the comment section below letting me know what you thought of this dupe. Instead of $37, we're going to only pay a few dollars for this one. Now, I'm not a pro at sewing, but I'll show you how I managed to make this without a sewing machine. Dollar Tree had this felt in many different colors, so I grabbed some white felt for this project. I cut it into a rectangle and then I drew on the cat face with some oil-based paint pens. I'll link all my supplies in the description box below this video. I just freehanded this on there, but you could use that wax paper trick if you don't trust your freehanding skills. But really, it doesn't have to be perfect. A little crooked cat smile just adds a bit of charm to this pillow. I got my mat dirty, and once again, this nail polish remover came to the rescue. It gets those oil-based paints off of surfaces really well, and if I can save any of you from using harsh paint thinner to clean up spills, then I'm going to tell you about this every time. I had this pink fabric from another project. You can find quarters of Waverly fabric at Walmart for $1 or $2. Dollar Tree also has some small amounts of fabric, and they're usually in seasonal patterns, and you can find those in their craft section. I used some heat and bond fabric tape. This stuff can be cut into any size and then sealed with the heat of an iron. I love how easy this is and no sewing machine required. I added a little felt to the inside of the ears to make them look puffy. And then I cut holes at the top of the pillow to add the ears. I stuffed the pillow with some pillow stuffing from another pillow that I didn't like. And then I used some fabric fuse to seal all the holes and attach those ears. This works just like glue and it seals clear. And here is my pillow compared to the Target original. I hope you were inspired to make one of these home decor dupes. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, please consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a creative day.